When you think about the prospects in this draft who could fit value and need for the Eagles at 32, it's hard to think about somebody who might do that more, Zach, than Malaki Starks, who also checks the Georgia box.
You're right. Now, value and need for sure, Georgia box for sure, position priority, no. But if you're just saying, is he one of the 32 best players in the draft? Absolutely. Is he a guy who can start next year? Absolutely. Is he a guy who has upside to be one of the better players in the league at his position? Absolutely. So if you reconcile the fact that the Eagles don't prioritize safety and you just look at the player and the profile, there's a lot to like.
All right. Well, before we get into whether we think the Eagles would pull the trigger on Malaki Starks in the first round, let's get the deeper scouting report on the player, the Georgia safety, from who else? The All-City NFL draft analyst himself, Fran Duffy.
Malaki Starks, the safety from Georgia, 6'1", 197 pounds. Modest size, a little bit on the lighter side for the safety position, but this is a guy that I love studying on film. One of my favorite players to study, especially on defense in the 2025 NFL Draft. And one of the things that stands out most when watching him, his combination of athleticism and urgency. I love the play personality from Malaki Starks. He's always going 100 miles an hour. He competes on every single rep, whether it's in coverage or playing downhill as a run defender or a blitzer. I think he brings a multifaceted skill set to the NFL and the ability to wear a number of different hats for an NFL defense. There are a lot of times when you're watching him, he's playing in the slot over a receiver. He can be playing in the box. He can play from depth. He can do a lot of different things for an NFL defense. And so when you're looking at Starks, love the versatility. I love the competitiveness. He's got outstanding, rare ball skills for a safety. You just go back. Honestly, they played Clemson each of the last 2 years in week 1. And in both of those games, he had ridiculous freak show interceptions down the field where he looked like a first-round corner with his ability to turn, find the football, attack it at the highest point, and finish. You watch him climb the ladder against those Clemson receivers, and you say, yeah, okay, this guy looks like a first-round pick at safety. So when you're looking at Starks, I love his ability to make plays on the ball. He's a good tackler, smart, heady player. All the character reviews, you talk to scouts and people that have been through the building, they all speak very highly of him moving forward into the league. So when you're looking at Malaki Starks, you love the urgency, you love the intangibles, you love the versatility. He can fit into a number of different schemes and fit. If you're a pure free safety or a pure strong safety, or you need a split safety guy that can do a lot of different things, he's got that interchangeable skill set, which you need in today's NFL for most defenses. Now, in terms of the negatives, I mentioned the size, 6'1", 197. For that size, he didn't test like an elite athlete. It was kind of like average across the board with what he did. So he goes to the combine. He doesn't light it up. He's got another safety right next to him, Nick Emanwari from South Carolina, who has a legendary workout. And now everybody's like saying, what about this guy, this shiny new toy over here, Emanwari, who's a really good player. But with Malaki Starks, what stood out, when I go to the combine, yes, the athletic testing is important, but I'm always watching the positional drills. I'm watching the guys go through the field workout, this position-specific drills. And to me, Malaki Starks, he had one of the best position workouts of any defensive back there during the week of workouts at the combine. Then the GPS numbers come out because they have all these guys microchipped and follow their GPS tracking over the course of the workout. Malaki Starks, even though he didn't run the fastest 40, he didn't look all that great in the positional or in the athletic testing, when they went through positional drills, he was the guy who was consistently moving the fastest. He had the highest mile per hour rate in all of the different position drills and even going through some of the athletic testing as well. And so while the 40 time wasn't impressive, this is a guy that plays extremely fast. I mentioned the intangibles. There's not much for me to poke holes in with this guy's game. I love so much about what he brings. I feel very good about his transition to the NFL. I think he's safe. I think he's got a really high floor, and he's got the ability to be a ball-hawking, takeaway type of player. The production wasn't always there. Teams did know to kind of stay away from his side, especially after starting seasons off every single year the way he did the last 2 against Clemson with those highlight interceptions. To me, this guy's got one of the best defensive players in the 2025 NFL Draft.
All right, Zach. Malaki Starks, a 3-year starter at Georgia. Not an explosive athlete, according to the testing metrics, but checked the boxes there. First of all, do you think the Eagles will actually care about the Georgia connection here, given Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Lewis Cine and Nakobe Dean, all of those guys?
I don't think they draft him because of that, but I think that it's definitely something that they like because they like that defense. They have good intel from the people at the school, and I think they've seen it translate. And the reality is, Georgia has a lot of players on the Eagles because they have a lot of really good players. So if you're looking for the best players in college football, they recruit the best players from high school football. They become the best players in college football, and a lot of them become the best players in the NFL.
Now, you make the case that the Eagles don't prioritize
Yes.
the position. That's true. I don't know that it's necessarily true. I think it has a little bit more to do with, this is a really tough position to project from college to the NFL. I think it's why the Eagles have shied away from using high picks on it since Nate Allen, basically. Remember Sidney Brown, who they drafted 2 years ago in the 3rd round, was the highest they've drafted anybody since that Nate Allen pick. And the Sidney Brown pick is probably cautionary to Howie Roseman I think they like Sidney Brown, but they don't know heading into year 3 that he's ready to be a starter. What do you think they think about the current setup of the safety position with Reed Blankenship here and Sidney Brown and Tristan McCollum and Lewis Cine?
Well, they want to add at safety because they do like Sidney Brown quite a bit, and they want Sidney Brown to have a chance to compete to start. But the operative word there being compete to start. I don't think they're going to hand him the job. He hasn't earned it yet. So whether that's in the form of a rookie, whether that's in the form of a veteran on a 1-year deal who competes with him, but if it's Justin Simmons post-draft. So I could see that. If you take a safety in the 1st round, that guy's starting over Sidney Brown. Now I don't think you don't take someone because of Sidney Brown. If you like him, it's pretty clear. But I think a good example for the Starks discussion is the best safety in recent years that I remember was Kyle Hamilton. And you and I were talking about that going into the draft, saying this might be my favorite player in the draft. This is one of the top guys in the draft. And it was pretty clear. But then when the Eagles took Jordan Davis, I said, understanding the Eagles' positional priorities, they're always going to take the line of scrimmage over the safety. And I think that's going to be applicable here. I can't imagine them taking Malaki Starks if there is a player on the line of scrimmage who they really like.
I think it's worth noting that of all the reported pre-draft visits for the Eagles, only one of them has been a safety. That's Jalen Reed, who's more of a mid-round prospect from Penn State. Now, listen, there could be guys who have come in and we don't know about yet. It's possible that they already know all they need to know about Malaki Starks, given the Georgia background, right? But I do agree with you that I think a tie here on the board would probably go to a different position.
Yeah, and I also don't think they want to block Sidney Brown. Now,
I don't think they're passing on somebody because of Sidney Brown being here.
But I don't think they look at it saying like they need to draft a safety early to have a starter. I think that they would take a safety if the value's too good, if their evaluation of the player is so high. But I don't think they're sitting in that room right now saying we need to come out of the first 50 picks with a safety this year.
And the other thing to keep in mind is Cooper DeJean gives them the flexibility. I mean, he was an awesome nickel, but maybe the best way to get the best guys on the field is inside corner in round 3, and then maybe Cooper DeJean gets to moonlight a little bit at safety in some certain packages. It gives them some optionality.
Also, there was once a safety from Georgia taken number 32 overall, and that was a player you mentioned a moment ago, and that's Lewis Cine.
There you go. And Cine. No, I'm just kidding. We have more to tell you about the Die Hard Draft Guide, NFL, allphly.com. Fran Duffy gives you all the scouting reports. We are going to be live on the PHLY Eagles draft throw throughout the entire draft weekend. Zach Berman, Fran Duffy, myself, some special guests along the way. Comment in the video below. Do you want the Eagles to draft Malaki Starks? And Cine.